Welcome to Redpill Diaries, it's Craig. Have you ever been onto a tracking website and it's for this new Elon Musk project called Starlink? Because it's strange that around the same time as they're forcing, right, all these jobs that are meant to be, well, we can see what makes the world go round, right? You need nurses, generally you need school teachers, but the government indoctrination camps are all shut down right now. But you do need people to take your garbage away. You need people to fix electricity lines, all that sort of stuff. So it's essential jobs. Strange then that one of the essential jobs they had was to install 5G towers. Network engineer here, well, ex-network engineer. I don't fully follow the big hype about 5G. I just know that RF tech is not the safest in the world, because I know what I've seen myself with my own experiences. Just using high amplification general Wi-Fi, 2.4 gigahertz to 5.8 gigahertz, or 802.11 ABG, all those frequencies, right? And I know it's not 100% safe, and I know there's a reason why cell phones became a little bit more underpowered than they used to be. They used to be like mobile microwave ovens sitting there frying your balls in your pocket, right? And this is why they came up with Bluetooth earphones, and the first cable earphones they had was actually to reduce the amount of EIRP that was next to your head. There's a thing, if you want to look it up, called the inverse cube theory, which is about the amount of radiation that depletes the further away you get basically radiation emitting device near your head, RF frequencies. You can look that up along with the Appleton effect. It's a very, very interesting one about bouncing shortwave signals off of the atmosphere, the ionosphere, whatever. But that's not what I wanted to speak about. What I wanted to speak about was the strangeness, and also the who the fuck do they think they are-ness about this project. Come on, chicken, move. Farm animals and stuff. I'm in a farming area. Alright, so basically Starlink is going to have around about 7,000 satellites going in one direction in parallels, right? So maybe each parallel would have something like 1,000 satellites per parallel, right? In the other direction, it's close to 5,000. Although a friend of mine said the other day it's more like 30,000. They think it'd be more like 30 to 40,000. Now, as I say, I don't know if you've had a chance to go outside and look up at the sky. And just a little bit of a pause here. See, the highways are really empty. You see, it's all dead right now. Hardly any cars. Anyway, who knows when it'll go back to normal. Getting back to my point. You go on these tracking websites, you put in where you live, and it'll tell you what time Starlink or a range of Starlink satellites, because there's a few streams of them up now. And I think there's about 20 odd satellites per stream. It's pretty cool. I suppose everything looks cool at first. But if you do bother to go outside, especially if you live in an area that you have very good visibility at night, especially when the moon is not present, and you just think to yourself what it might be, just think back to some of the places you've been camping. Anywhere in the world where you've got beautiful starlight, where there's not much light pollution around, and just think how nice it is to sit with your kids or your friend or your loved ones, whatever it might be, and look up at the stars, or the first chick you're going to shag, whatever it might be. And how much the magic might have been taken away if you had a whole bunch of lines going crisscrossing this way and crisscrossing the other way, a constant stream of satellites destroying your night vision, just so that you could get better internet coverage all around the world. And you ask yourself, what right do they have to colonize the space above you? Because in some countries, for example, you own the land that your house sits on. But in America, I'm pretty sure America's like this, and many other countries, I think the UK is the same. You don't own the mineral rights below your house. Actually, I think it might be the other way around. I think America, you do own it, or at least in some states. So you own the oil below you, for example, or whatever it might be, diamonds or gold. But you don't own the same things in the UK because the Queen owns everything, right? So, or in New Zealand, you don't really own everything because the government can steal it from you at any time if you stop paying your rates for a year or two, as I found out, right? So they can always steal it even if it's freehold. And in some places in the world, you own a little bit of your airspace above you as well. So I want to know, how the fuck did Elon Musk pass this, that he could cross every country in the world? Maybe, I don't know, maybe it misses Outer Mongolia, I'm not really sure, but I'm pretty sure for the most part, everything above and below a certain parallel, like maybe, it might be something like 10 or 15 degrees below and above and below, so basically to take out the Antarctica and take out the Arctic region, right? I'm pretty sure it's just those regions that don't have coverage. But everywhere else does. And you'll have somewhere between 10 to 40,000, doesn't really matter. Either way, it's going to completely destroy the starscape at nighttime. So instead of sitting up looking at the stars or being a junior astronomist, looking at the stars with your satellite, you're going to have all this light pollution and all this noise, this light noise going by your face. I just think for the sake of a few more years of technology, we should just wait till something better comes out. I know we have 5G now, and that's the other crux here. The other little question that I've got to ask is, if we're pushing 5G in a time where you have no one working, right? Everyone's at home except for these necessary jobs. And then we see in England the other day, and there's probably more around the world, rolling out 5G. Look, it might be nothing nefarious. I can imagine that what it might have been is that some of these companies in the UK were maybe given, like we have in Europe here, you got to have a piece of paper to get through certain borders and stuff, right? Maybe they were given that, and maybe they abused the power. And instead of just using these bits of paper they got given to do essential maintenance, maybe they also started saying, oh, stuff it, look, no one's there right now, look at the amount of disruption we have when we're doing things during the day usually, let's just put it in now. It could be that, right? So it might not be this nefarious thing that people think it is. But I know that 5G isn't 100% safe. If it was, when I say 100%, I'm not just talking about radiation, I'm talking about security. I know it's not 100% safe because I know for a fact that Israel aren't deploying it themselves. And I also know that, possibly based upon that, this country right here was one of the first in the world to say they ain't putting it in either. So, if this 5G technology, which gives you much more, it gives you more range, but it gives you more throughput, it gives you more connectivity to more devices per antenna mast, or per tower, per cell tower. Why do we need Starlink? You know, surely we can look after our own affairs in every country. This again looks like the corporate version of communism, where the corporations are stepping in and taking the role of the global communist. They're allowed, Jeff Bezos is allowed to become a bazillionaire because in the future they know that people like him are going to be, well, they already are, the corporate government cabal, the elite, the old money, the former monarchies, the former, whatever else, oligarchs, those sort of things, all in one big collective of ruling elite. And there they are rolling out this 5G at the same time as rolling out Starlink, which is going to be up and operational within a few years. it makes you think, why not just hold back? Well, why not hold back Starlink, finish the 5G rollout, and if third world countries that aren't covered by that need a handout, we'll just help them put some fiber optic in. I still don't know why we just don't fiber optic the whole world. We've got the main trunks through, they've been there for years. When you upgrade fiber optic networks, you don't necessarily have to run new fiber. Sometimes you do. There's different types of fiber, U law, A law, that kind of thing. But for the most part, when it comes to optical transmission stuff, large circuits that go between countries, they call them STM16 circuits or STM1s, or the smaller ones. They what they end up doing is they just change the laser technology that goes through it, right? So if you look at it in a simplistic way, imagine I'm shining a red laser through a glass tube. If I want to multiply the amount of data, what I can do is I can put different wavelengths down that same fiber. So the red laser will not be affected by the blue laser and by the yellow laser and by these different frequencies. So you can multiply the amount of data you get put through, and that is how they increase the capacity of these circuits. Then they get faster switching, so it switches at terabit speed per channel, then it might do multi-terabit speed per channel. So some of the top companies doing this sort of stuff are Huawei and then probably Cisco. So that's how it's kind of done. And then off those main trunks that you have that are already around the world, there's a company called Flag, which is Fiber Link Around the Globe. Oi, my tractor man, and I'm okay. I like these big tractors. Yeah, so what ends up happening is you could basically take off these main trunks all around the world. They're already up in the capacity of these main trunks already, and you just connect into that. And put it this way, most countries in the world have access to fiber optic now, already. Even third world countries, because that's how they get their cell towers. If you wonder how they get high-speed bandwidth in places like South Africa, where they keep on stealing the cable, they still get the high bandwidth because they have fiber optic cables going to the cell towers, and then from there, they don't have copper because copper wire gets stolen, right? Same in Nigeria, but they still have the fiber optic going there. It comes in through C channels by companies like Cable Ship. They actually run a lot of these cables for Flag around the world. And that's how it's done, right? So this is not breaking new grounds. In my place here, I have two different services, fiber optic, straight to the door, 500 megabits a second. I don't need 4G because that's faster than the 5G service I'd get anyway, right? You just don't really need 5G. It might make sense from a profit point of view. But anyway, the real thing here is not really about the 5G scenario. I don't want to go down that argument. I don't want to go down that track about whether it is or it isn't safe. I think it's not safe. I think that generally Wi-Fi is not good for us. I tell people to shut their Wi-Fi off at nighttime to get a better sleep. Even if you have a customizable little Cisco system and you can actually fiddle around with the milliamps that you're outputting, and you can turn it down to just have a low range, I would still say turn it off at night time. Turn off your laptop, see how you sleep if you're having headaches and things like that. But the thing that really concerns me more is that we're putting a lot of these satellites up in space, and who knows if they can do controlled re-entries for all these satellites. Or for example, the worst case one is, I'm trying to remember what the actual speed is. I don't know what the actual speed is, so there's no point me commenting on it. But let's say it's going to be in the tens of thousands of miles per hour that they're orbiting on a low Earth orbit, right? Come on, wee man, come. So what will be happening in that case is if you have, just like any satellite, if you hit into something else, or even if you have a free floating spanner that hits into something, like some workman was working on something, he dropped a screwdriver, when that starts moving at an incredible pace and it hits into something else, it's a lot of damage, right? A simple screw this size can go into a piece of steel an inch thick and make a massive crater into it. That's what can happen with just for the sheer speed. When you're talking the higher orbits around a couple of 100,000 miles per hour, that's what you end up getting, right? It's moving much faster than the normal bullet is. So we could get to the stage where we don't just have these satellites, but we have a lot of space debris. It could effectively end up becoming a prison. So we just get to the stage, for example, where we have space flight, and this is what I can imagine happening. We've got Virgin Galaxy or Virgin Galactica, whatever it's called, and you know, SpaceX and Blue Yonder doing all these, not Blue Yonder, whatever it's called, Blue Origin, doing all these, what do you may call it, tourism flights for you know, space travel. People want to do that, and what might end up happening is we might have a situation where you can't even escape, or it might be a situation where you can only get out of Earth on one of these highly technical solutions from these companies, and people in the future, the smaller companies that end up doing their own rocket propulsion systems and getting off of Earth, they can't get out because when you try to get out, it's like an asteroid belt and you get destroyed. Maybe it's preparation for the future, because the elite always seem to like to prepare for the future to fuck things up for the rest of us. It could be that, it could be something else. But the worst thing is you won't be able to just sit, I don't know. I was in the Grand Canyon about a year and a bit ago, me and my dog, and you know, one of the cool things, it was fucking freezing, and but it really warmed up during the day, and at night time it was really, really cool looking at the stars, right? And I was around Joshua Tree area. Actually, it's on Bitcoin Roadshow. You can see it if you go zoom about a year and a half backwards. Just look up Joshua Tree or California or something like that. Anyway, it was really, really good looking up at the stars there. And it's just a real shame to think that future generations won't be able to get to enjoy that because some bright spark decided that everyone needed faster internet in more places. When they don't really. Sometimes you actually want to escape the internet, don't you? You leave your phone at home, or I know I do. I'm actually thinking of getting rid of this phone because I just don't need it for the most part. I do filming this stuff, but I could do that on the little GoPro I've got instead. I just don't know if the microphone's that good. But imagine you get to the stage where, just like all these 3G towers years ago, when they were moving to 4G, they it might have been the other way around actually. I was in telecoms years ago. When you were moving from, I think it was actually GPRS to 3G, you could upgrade certain systems, and you could update the WCDMA, but you couldn't update the CDMA stuff. And then later on, they found an upgrade path for it, right? But you can get locked into this technology trap where you can't upgrade. And imagine you've got 10 to 40,000 useless pieces of junk floating around in space, all acting like visual satellites where you can see the reflection of them all, crisscrossing in a grid pattern, completely destroying your view at night time, where you're sitting there by the campfire with your family in the camping trip that you waited all year to go on, and you got all this shit crisscrossing in a grid above you just to make sure you had internet in the middle of fucking nowhere. Something tells me we just don't need it. And in most parts of the world, as I say, I went all around the States, and as shit as their internet is, at least it was available slightly in places, or you could go without it for a little bit and get back to civilization if you go up the road. It's not that bad, and there is terrestrial systems that you could actually get around this problem just by, I don't know, when you go on highways, for example, you've already got a highway there, put fibre optic all the way down and little repeater stations with whatever. There's always a solution. You don't have to put satellites up. Look at the price to lift these satellites into space, and never mind the actual price of the satellites themselves. Something tells me that can't just be to give us all internet service. And again, who the fuck said they can fly above us? I mean, I'm imagining that just to be assholes, or just to, you know, just to show, look, put it this way. Let's say, for example, I'm in Ukraine. Look at them. They blamed Russia a few years ago for they shot down a passenger jet with a Russian Buk, I think it's called. So surface-to-air missile. And then tried to play off the UN and everyone against them to go against Russia, right? It was obvious trickery, right? You can see when someone's saber rattling, it reeks off them. And what was going on in the Ukraine at the time, it just looked like they were just playing both sides of the war. Anyway, my point is, what if instead of doing that, these are 500 kilometers in the sky. What if you can use a Buk or one of these advanced versions of it that can go higher to take out the satellites and just go whoosh, 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 and basically hold them at ransom? We will not knock down 15 satellites if you pay X amount into our bank account. I'm not just giving someone ideas out there. I'm just saying it's one of the things that could happen in the future. Surely they've thought of that. And the thing is, you ain't got a leg to stand on. If someone is flying something above your country, well, it's the same thing as flying in someone's airspace, isn't it? If you're flying in someone's airspace, you could just say, well, fuck you. Who do you think you are, spying on my country? No, it's an internet satellite. Yeah, sure it is. Did we inspect each one before we went up to space? No. And I think what you might end up seeing is there might even be a lot of litigation in the future by the fact that they didn't even put this past every country in the world to actually say, right, it's flying above our country, let's inspect every single one, and that's 198 countries in the world, inspecting every single satellite that comes through to make sure they're happy that's going to be flying over their country. I'm pretty sure that didn't happen. Not that I'm against Elon Musk, not that I'm saying that he is maybe one of these potential supervillains, even though apparently there's linkages with his father, which is really strange. I know that he was his mum took him to America, from what I understood, but his father was apparently in one of these, not secret societies, but you know what, I need to do, I won't say any more on it because I can't remember the actual linkage. I also know that Bill Gates, apparently his father was meant to be one of these people in the, I think it was the World Health Organization. Again, I don't know the exact details, so I'd wait to find that out first. But it's just kind of annoying when these people that are doing these things seem to be the same. Well, they seem to be the same usual suspects, but at the same time, they are suspiciously generous, and it's not a bad thing. Like, I just find that when people are generous, if you trace it back and you think, if you gave the amount of money that you gave in a different way, you could have done a lot more with it. You know, Bill Gates, for example, forcing his vaccines upon people around the world, talking about vaccines all the time, being involved in that space. His father apparently being involved in that space too. Him dropping out in college, yet stealing the DOS code, and appearing more intelligent than he actually is, more innovative than he actually is, when he's actually just a marketing person, which I never trust, marketing and sales. I know I've gone into marketing and sales myself, or more sales, just to prove I can do it, and I did it quite well. So I just wanted to make sure it was something that was possible for everyone, and it is. So you're no great brain surgeon. The real work is the people that actually innovate and produce things, and you know, those people generally, people like Tesla, are not remunerated, you know, fairly for what they've actually given to mankind. And you get people like Warren Buffett, who's actually, from what I can tell, innovated nothing in this world, and yet makes billions upon billions by manipulating markets, then appearing to be benevolent because he gives some of what he's effectively stolen back to society. So, I don't know. Elon Musk could be in the same boat as this guy, but he never asked me if he could destroy my night sky. He never asked any country to say, right, you can have a vote, or you can just give your governments. They can say, you know, from what I can tell, Slovenia never said we can have it flying above our skies. Pretty sure the same thing with Scotland as well. So I would just like to know what's up there. If you do have any information on that, if there was some kind of census that I don't know about, just put it in a link in the comments below. I can't find anything on it. Yeah, that's it really. I don't trust it. I don't need it. This has got fast internet in this country, and that's because we don't rely on corporate communism to give us infrastructure. I don't ever want to rely on that. I would rather rely on, while capitalism's alive, I'll rely on capitalism. And then when it's done its course, because it can't sustain itself eventually, because when automation comes in, capitalism cannot survive. Neither can socialism. So, but until that stage, I would rather rely on capitalism than rely on socialism or communism. It's just the way I am. And I'm pretty sure most people are the same. Well, at least half of the people are the same. In most countries, you've got a mixture of left and right, and they're not all capitalist and socialist. It might be libertarian and a few other things. But yeah, for let's say 25% of the left and 25% of the right in each country are going to be capitalist or socialist. And I'm pretty sure neither side was asked for their opinion. Alright, I'm going to leave it at that. This has been Redpill Diaries. I've been Craig, you've been you. Bye.